Alrighty, let's go back to the beginning where we're going to talk about how I got here in terms of med school and like how I became a doctor. All the way back from the start, and you know, we're going to go ahead and not turn that light on because it's not plugged in. Anyways, let's go back to the start. How did I get into med school? How did I become a doctor? What's my journey right from the start? Let's go back to high school where it all began. Essentially, I never really knew that I wanted to become a doctor until maybe like year 10, year 11. I thought it, even at that stage, I probably wasn't completely 100% sold on it. Up until that point, I never really thought about a career in anything apart from like just playing sport, you know? And that's like the only thing that I enjoyed doing as a kid. I enjoyed like playing what we call AFL, like so Aussie rules or footy. And I would play that at lunchtime every single day. I'd play that on the weekends, and like up until year 10, year 11, I was like, oh, that's all I really want to do. Sure, I was like good at school, like I got good grades and good marks, and study was okay, school was fine, but I never really like wanted to do anything particular with, you know, a particular career. I just wanted to play games and win sport, which is like the main gist of it. And I don't think it was really until like my stepdad suggested, hey, well, what if this whole sport thing doesn't work out? And like, I was not like an amazing sports player or anything. I was just like pretty average, you know, I like did okay, but I was never like spectacular or, you know, insanely skilled or anything like that. So I don't know, I was probably a bit delusional, and it was a good thing that my stepdad probably said, hey, well, what about something else? Like, let's, you know, what if this whole thing doesn't work out? We should probably focus on a separate thing. And yeah, that's when he suggested, what about medicine as a career? I ended up doing some work experience to figure out if I actually enjoyed this or not. And yeah, it was one of my friends' mums who was a doctor at one of the hospitals around Melbourne. And yeah, got like a week experience with her, and she was like absolutely unreal. And I got to go into theatre, and I got to like go into the clinic and do all these like different things, and it was really cool. Like, I think I just knew at that point. I think I even went to like the pathologists, like I was like watching them like look at like slides under the microscope and stuff. To think about that, like that's the only experience I've actually been, you know, with a pathologist. That's pretty cool. And that was like year 10 work experience, like insane. But I think that experience, was probably the one that said, hey, I actually like wouldn't mind being in the hospital setting. It wasn't like, oh, I really like, you know, it really like sparked a fire in my heart. Like after that week, I was like, yeah, it was cool. You know, some people actually got paid for that work experience. I didn't get paid, but I got paid in experience rather than actual monetary value. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, I still remember that week was actually kind of funny. My friend actually did work experience with my stepdad, who was an orthodontist and now retired, but he actually came to stay at my place, and I would get up early and, you know, go off to the hospital, and he would actually sleep in and then get driven to work by my stepdad and just like chill and do nothing. Jealous, very, very jealous. Anyways, back to the story about my journey through medicine. Work experience, and then I guess I was like, you know, why not give this a shot? I tried to just do subjects I like, do subjects that I was good at school. Ended up getting a pretty good mark in year 12. And then, yeah, we tried to sit the UMAT, which is like the entry test to get into med now. I don't know if it's like the UCAT or something like that, but it's the entry test to get into undergraduate medicine, which means you go straight from school into the medicine degree. You don't have to do any like science or biomedicine degree, like an undergraduate degree. Instead, you just go straight into the medicine program. And I tried to do the UMAT, and I didn't do that well at it. Me and a couple other guys didn't do that well at it. So we ended up just doing the biomedicine degree instead. Yeah, it's essentially just like a glorified science degree. Sort of like appeals to people because it's tailored to people who want to do medicine as a career. And I don't really think there's much difference. So if you have an ATAR or a VCE score or whatever it is, like your high school score that only gets you into a science degree, that's completely fine. I don't think it is like necessary to do a biomedicine degree. you can just do a science degree. It's pretty much the same thing. The only thing about a biomedicine degree is that you can, like, you don't have to choose your subjects. They make sure you fill all your prerequisites that are required for the medical degree. But I mean, that would probably take about half an hour out of your time to figure out what subjects you need to do each year, and you could easily do it with a science degree. But yeah, 3-year biomedicine degree, we did that, and then we applied into medicine in our final year. We tried to sit the GAMSAT a few times, did okay, did well in like section 2, but other sections were not amazing. We had a pretty average GAMSAT score. We essentially like wanted to apply to postgrad med after that. Yeah, like postgrad med is okay. I mean, like, you know, it's pretty brutal. Some people find it like pretty tricky to get in. And I was lucky enough that my year 12 score was just high enough that I could get this whole thing, it's called like guaranteed entry program. So it's not a guaranteed HECS place, it's a guaranteed full fee place. So I was lucky enough that my parents could help me out and fork out a little bit of cash to kickstart this whole journey into med. And yeah, I guess I had to get some marks, but it is a little bit of a nice thing to have. Me and a couple other mates did the same thing. So yeah, it's all I had to do for this whole thing is you have to just get like a pretty average, weighted average mark in university, and you just have to pass the interview to get into med, which is an MMI. It's a multiple mini interview or something. Essentially, it's like, I look at it like interview, like speed dating. You like go around 8 different stations in your state. You have like a couple minutes when you walk into the room to answer whatever questions they have. And after that, like you go outside, they ring a bell, and then you enter the next room and you just go around in a circle to these 8 different stations. So it's like speed dating interview. And you essentially just have to pass that, and then you get in automatically, as long as you pay full fee. And you can just HECS most of that, like it's called fee help, essentially. But you still have to fork out a little bit of cash. So that is an option for people who do okay at school, but not the best. If you're up the top, you essentially get a perfect or near perfect score. Yeah, you get a guaranteed HECS place, like a CSP, like a Commonwealth supported place at the university of your choice, pretty much. I ended up going to Melbourne Uni for my undergraduate degree. That was 3 years. It was a 3-year biomedicine degree. And then I got into postgraduate medicine at Melbourne as well. And that was a 4-year postgraduate degree. I tried to get in via the undergraduate pathway, and I applied to a couple unis here and there, but I thought, you know what, my life is set up here in Melbourne. I could spend like another couple of years and apply to all these different unis all across Australia. But yeah, we ended up going with the guaranteed place in the end, which just a decision that, you know, me and my family came to, and we were happy to do that. If it wasn't, then, you know, I'd have to go elsewhere because my GAMSAT wasn't good enough. I didn't really apply to a whole lot of unis for postgraduate medicine. I applied to a lot for undergraduate, but my UMAT was like not great at all. Whereas my GAMSAT was actually okay-ish. I probably could have got into a couple with the GAMSAT score I got. I think I was like 65 or 66 or something. So it was okay, but like not that like 70 cutoff that most people would want. So yeah, it was a little bit tricky. I really don't like the GAMSAT at all in terms of like the test and stuff. I did really well in section 2. I got like an 81, which is pretty good. And the other sections were like horrendous, like 60s, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, it's a tricky test that is often a roadblock for people getting into medicine, which is very frustrating because I honestly see absolutely no correlation between GAMSAT score and your ability to work as a doctor. And I think a lot of the time it's just BS. But you know, I would, if I had my choice, I would put more weight on the interview. And you know, obviously your grades, you need to study well, you need to know your stuff, but then you also need to be able to communicate to people. And I think answering questions in an interview situation is ultimately what I think is the best decider as to who should get the job or who should get in or not. I would heavily weight it like 50-50 almost, and scrap the GAMSAT thing altogether because I just think that's such a, yeah, I don't really like that test at all. Not just because I didn't do well at it, like I did okay, and in one of the sections I did pretty good, like the essay writing, but the overall test and its relevance to being a deciding factor as to who gets in and who doesn't get into medicine very frustrating. I really don't, see the relevance to it. Yeah, that's just my personal opinion. I guess overall, how did the whole process go? Trying to get in through high school to undergraduate medicine would be the ideal pathway. I think if you are watching this and you are in high school or you're thinking about doing medicine, try to get in as soon as you can. I don't think it really matters what university you go to initially. I think it matters where you want to work in which state. Once you're in the state of your choice, once you're in the geographical location, then you can really start to go to the hospitals you want. It's easier to move around, and then you start working in the areas that you want to work in, get the right contacts, and you really streamline the whole process after that. So yeah, that would be the ideal situation. But doing undergraduate degree like science or biomedicine or arts, and you just do elective anatomy and science subjects, you can definitely do that as well. I think it'd probably be easier just to do a straight up science degree or biomedicine degree than just sit the GAMSAT, do well in the interview, and then you get in after that. I really didn't do, I tried to do a little bit of GAMSAT practice. I took a course or two and I didn't really feel like they helped. I actually got a better mark in section 2 without a course than I did with a course. And I think that's just I don't know, a bit of an anomaly, but just the way it is. Yeah, I don't know, it's a lot of hurdles just to get in, but yeah. We did it. So I guess in terms of how hard it is to get into medicine, I guess you got to put in a little bit of work. I don't think it's the hardest thing to get into if you really want to, and you want it enough, you can get in. Like most things in life, if you want it badly enough, you can probably get to it if you just put in a bit of hard work and you put in the effort and stuff. In terms of how I got a good mark in high school, I think I essentially just I did a little bit of work. I was okay at high school, not the smartest kid ever, but I did well. I studied hard. That's it. I really just did well in VCE we have these things called markup subject, which is essentially just subjects that you get bonus points for in terms of the score. And I really just did all the subjects that have the highest bonus scores. And that was a bit of a cheat code to doing well at high school. I only got one subject that was we have it, it's in 40s, so 50 is the highest mark in VCE. So I had one subject that was in the 40s. All the other subjects were in the 30s, and they just got bumped up from the markup. And that was really the key to getting a good high school mark. That's essentially what I used to skyrocket my chances of getting into medicine. I mean, I think you have to have 3 things to get into medicine. You need to have good grades. You need to have a good entry test score or whatever, UMAT or GAMSAT, and you need to do well at the interviews. So having these 3 things is the real trio combo that you actually need to have in order to get into medicine. So yeah, it was okay. High school is fine. You try hard enough, you get a good score, then you get to go to the university of your choice. In terms of the undergraduate science degree, so I did biomedicine degree. Essentially, it's a glorified science degree. It's the same thing. Those 3 years are pretty good. I wasn't too amazed by the content in the first year. It's very rudimentary science, chemistry, physics, biology, cells, all that stuff, and I'm it's not really what I came here for. But you need to learn it, you need to go to the basics, and then you can actually do the cool stuff in second and third year. So anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, you go to cadaver labs and do actual medical, clinical stuff. You get guest lecturers in. I remember there was guest lecturers who had different diseases that we were studying. We would do a disease on muscular dystrophy, and then some person with Duchenne's muscular dystrophy would come in, and it would be the most heartfelt story ever. And you actually get to see the patients who have these conditions that you learn about. And I don't know, I think for that, that was cool, in terms of learning and appreciating and getting a really good understanding of everything. Whereas all the other stuff chemistry, physics and yada yada, I'm just not too interested in it. It just felt like an extension of school, to be honest. And I wanted to move away from school and actually do something more interesting. In terms of second and third year, I mean, you really start to get into the nitty-gritty and learn about those diseases and real fundamentals that form the basis of your medical education. Then transitioning into first year med school, after you get in, it's cool, first year I just did at the hospital, Sorry, not at the hospital. The first year of med school is pretty much all theory. I think I did 2 placements at a general practice for like half a day. So in total for the whole first year at postgrad med, it was like 1 day of clinical placement. The rest was all at the university learning the theory. Sure, you do like different pracs and different like, you know, what do they call them, like CSLs, well, I don't know, it's like case-based learning. So you'd have like a case that you would do, you get introduced to it on Monday, you try to like learn about it in your lecture series for the week, and then on Friday you try to like solve it, and then you'd get a new one on Monday, etc. So yeah, sort of those things would be cool, would be good fun, but you'd also go to the anatomy lab in the cadavers and get to do like dissection and, you know, learn about all that stuff. I think first year forms the basis of everything, but second, third and fourth year is really the nitty gritty for like learning the actual medicine and getting like good at like becoming a doctor in the future. And I think probably halfway through like second year, I was like getting a little bit like disinterested with it. It felt like there was so much to learn and so much to understand. And I guess before that, up until that point, I think I could overcome the amount of stuff that I would have to know by just sheer hard work, and like I could remember it and I could understand it, and I just put more hours of work in and I could understand everything. I guess in hindsight now, I don't think I've really thought about it until now, but that point was like, there's so much, there's too much. I don't think I could possibly ever understand it. And it was a little bit uncomfortable feeling like you were constantly out of your depth, fish out of water. I think it took like a little bit of resetting to just have the intention switched to, as soon as we go into placement every single day, have an intention of wanting to learn more, you know, more about one thing, get better at one particular thing, and each day just like rock up and do your best you can. And it's a simple thing when you think about it now, or when you hear it. When I'm like listening to myself speak, I'm like, wow, that's such a simple like mentality. Why are you? But it's different. Like it's a different shift in your focus. So whereas at school or university, you want to know absolutely everything. Like to revise for lectures in university, you would rewatch the same lecture twice, so you could make sure you get every single little detail that the lecturer was talking about in case it showed up on the exam. Whereas now when you're learning medicine, you're like, well, it could be this or it could be that, but it's hard to say. And there's areas of like, the gray areas are just like all over, and you have to balance what the patient wants versus what the hospital can offer versus what the clinician is comfortable doing versus the medications that are available and the treatments that that hospital can provide, and the number of beds that are available in the hospital, and the space and the resources. And it's all like real life, and the overlap between theory and actual clinical medicine really sets it into this feeling of like, it can't be a perfect exam answer. It can't be a question and an answer. It can only be discussions and best practice and evidence-based medicine, and, you know, balancing like what the patient wants versus what the clinician is capable of, and all those other things. And I think that point in like halfway through my med school journey, I sort of started to transition to just having intention of getting better and making the most of it, and yeah, not getting too stressed or too overwhelmed with knowing absolutely everything, and really just rocking up and doing the best you can. And I don't know, I think that probably made the rest of my med school journey much more enjoyable than the first like half of it. And of course you get to do much more cooler stuff in the third and fourth year of medicine. Obviously it was interrupted by COVID for a little bit of it, but largely you're just on placement. It's less lectures, it's less tutorials. You essentially just go on placement, hang around with doctors, hang around with patients, learn as much as you can. You're dealing with real cases, real presentations, real hospital problems, and you know, you see sick patients, you see well patients, you see cool procedures, you see all these different things, which is like, yes, like that is actually what I came here for. And I think having that delayed gratification in a sense is all worth it. in the big picture of things, but it's not to say that the course to get there is smooth sailing. So yeah, I mean, now after I finished med school, I did internship for a year. I did it at the same hospital that I was placed at during my med school time. The year after, I did a surgical resident year. So it's like a HMO, like a hospital medical officer. It's essentially, you're not allocated to a training program, you just general fields, you know, so you can go into like general HMO, you can go into a medical HMO, you can go into a surgical HMO. You can also go into like, you can do like pediatrics, you can do gynecology or obstetrics, and yeah, you can also do like psychiatry as well. But generally speaking, it's like general HMO, medical HMO or surgical HMO, and you can sort of chop and change different rotations in that stream is what you're allocated to. So yeah, I did that surgical year, and then I essentially got super keen on surgery all of a sudden. I thought I wanted to do anesthetics, but then I like sort of changed tack a little bit and then went down the surgical path. And yeah, now I'm doing unaccredited registrar position. It's like 6 months general surgery, 6 months urology, and we'll see how we go. But yeah, that's essentially how I got here. You're probably more focused on my journey to get through med school rather than what I'm doing right now, because you probably see a little bit of that already. But yeah, we did it. I guess let me know if you have any questions, because I guess there are so many different things to cover. I think I've probably covered the basic highlights of it, but there are lots of different things. And in terms of how to make certain decisions at the end of the day, like how do you choose what like hospital you want to go to, or how do you choose what university you want to go to, comes down to your own preference. At the end of the day, I don't think it really matters, but I would work in the, yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you have any specific questions and I can go through that. But broad stroke overview, that was my journey into med school. Pretty much a cookie cutter model: school, no gap year, undergraduate medicine, no break, postgrad medicine, no break, work. So yeah, I really like taking time off, but I just like to keep going, keep on the tracks. But yeah, who knows? Maybe next year I might actually take my first gap year. I don't know. Anyways, that's it. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, catch you next time, okay? Yeah, let's do that. Bye.